Hi there, this is Chris. I'm here to show you what some of our new signals are in the latest version of TacBotz, which is 3.4. And starting with the background color, which we used to show green and purple, and there was a black in between each of those background colors. Now we've actually filled those in to show you where the trends are starting to form in both directions. So where there's the darker shade of green in addition to the solid green background, that actually represents the full extent of the uptrend. And where we have a darker purple in addition to the solid purple, that's the downtrend. So hopefully with these new additions to the backgrounds, you can also see where the trend can reverse, but also where it gets confirmed. So starting a trade where the background is just reversed or just started is usually pretty dangerous. You don't want to go too heavy. You might want to start with a small size, but as you get the trend confirmed, you can definitely keep adding into your trade in that direction. The other change that we made was the in and out signal. So we used to have just in and out, and now the in is called trend in because we've actually added a few more in signals. So whenever there's a potential trend that's forming, instead of it just saying in, now it says trend in. And where it previously just said out, that was usually due to some kind of a quick momentum change. And so now we typed MOM for momentum out on the screen for you, so you know that there's a difference between the types of out signals that we're going to be walking through in just a second. So the actual new signals that we'd like to test and to get your feedback on are the volume in and out signals. So as you can see as I scroll through this chart, there's a number of different types of entries and then a single type of exit that are associated to volume. So let's start with what is called the small vol in. So I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit more so we can see it. All right, so here the small vol in is a little bit faded because this is not our primary in signal. It's something that we're just testing out. And what this means is that if there's a volume trend that's forming, then we want to show you where there's a potential entry due to small volume. But what we actually prefer to do is to recommend that you actually would take trades that have large volume ins. So here you see a small volume in signal pointing down. Didn't really last for very long on the 5-minute chart. It quickly got reversed. But if you look at the large volume in, it's a more significant candle, and it took a little bit more to turn that price around. What we really are trying to do is get from the large volume in to a volume out. So this is where we believe that due to the volume deteriorating in the market conditions, that you actually would want to start to think about your exit before the momentum shifts or goes sideways on you. So as you can see in a couple of these examples, and actually they do tend to be a little bit better in the higher time frames, so I'm going to go switch to 30 minutes. This is where we've seen a lot of success with these in and out signals. What you can do is if you have a large volume in that you take as your entry, and you see that there is no volume out in this case, what you can do is once the background shifts colors, you can go ahead and get out, or if you see a opposing volume in signal pointing in the opposite direction, that's another reason to get out as well. And as well as the TAC levels that we previously showed, it's really good to check to see when there's a small or large volume in that's pointing around one of these lines. You want to actually watch it and see if that actually helps to push price away from the line. And in this case, this small volume in pointing down did create enough down pressure to push the price down for Bitcoin. And the exit that we spotted was here that said volume out. You could have rode that a little bit further and got out at this small volume in right here, or when the background color changed. But at the end of the day, we like these moves because they're more consistent, they're clean, and it doesn't feel like you're chasing when you have a reason to get in that you can pair with a reason to get out consistently. Not knowing what's going to happen after that, we're not looking for tops and bottoms, we're just trying to look for nice clean moves and catch as much as the momentum as we can. Here's another example of that. So you have a large volume in right here, pushes the price down. It doesn't quite get underneath that bottom bear tack level. So these purple lines represent the bear tacks that previously painted, in this case is right here, top and bottom of that candle. And because there wasn't enough pressure in the market to push it below, this is where the volume out paints and it goes and kind of chops sideways. So you can kind of get that nice move down, get out for the sideways and get back in when it's ready to move again. Okay, and we'll take another look at this part of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's been pretty dumpy lately, and it's really good to have volume as a as a confirmation as when to get in, because if you try to get every single dump, you might get caught in a rebound. These markets are quite choppy these days, so it is very easy to either sit on the sideline because you're not sure where it's going, but if you have these signals, it should hopefully give you a little bit more confidence, especially as we start to hit those TAC levels. And we know that a lot of times they act as support or even resistance depending on the direction you're coming in. So in this case, this large volume in pushed the price down. We did consolidate a little bit between these lines, which is pretty much expected, but with that much pressure on that downshift, it was able to actually puncture through at this point, and our volume out comes in here, which is well before the change in momentum. But at the end of the day, that's a nice big move right there to capture. And as long as you can play these moves consistently and get out before it's too late, then even in this move here where it says large volume in, you push down, it was ready to reverse right away. We get the volume out even before the background disappears. So it's very possible to still catch a small profit there as long as you're not trying to wait for what happens after that volume out. Okay, so overall, just a quick review. We did talk about how the in and out signals are now labeled trend in and mom out or momentum out. And the new in and out signals that we have now showing for you is the large volume in, which we prefer for you to test in those trades with us, and also small volume in, which is kind of more experimental. We'll be doing the majority of the testing on those, and then pairing either of those volume entry signals with a volume out. And even if the out does not occur, just look at the background color. If it's not the darker or the lighter shade of the same color and it flips to the next color, you do want to get out as a way to wait for the next potential to get a trade in that direction. It'll also potentially help you to stay out of chop. So in this case, yeah, there were some pretty fast moves, but if you look at it, we're going between purple to green, and just so on and so forth, and that's a lot of sideways action, especially if you just want to get into a large position and just hold it for a while. This is pretty choppy, especially if you have any leverage on it. You're going to see a lot of wild swings in both directions. Maybe if you're playing spot on crypto at this moment, it won't be as big a deal. But we do try to help you to stay out of this chop by giving you the right signals, helping you get out, and it's really up to you if you want to continue to play the chop, but we prefer not to. I just want to quickly show you what it looks like on a lower time frame. You are going to get more signals and more early stops and early exits, sometimes good entries though, so when you don't see what you like on the higher time frame, it is always good to zoom down to a lower time frame and see if you can see a trend that's already formed or forming. The one thing we don't want you to do though is to see that this big move happens, get a volume out, and expect it to go much faster. Usually if we're going to go faster than what we saw right here, we would want more volume, not less volume, to help get us there. So ultimately these volume outs are there to try to keep you safe and out of chasing moves that have already formed. So here's a good example where we have small volume in, the price develops, and then it dumps, and then here's your volume out before it reverses. The fade signals still show up. Those are still pretty good to show you, not that the price is necessarily going to reverse hard, but the direction you were coming in from has slowed down enough to create that fade signal, which could mean that another impulse would help it to continue in that direction, or it's a good time for the reversal to happen. So usually we try to get out before the fade if we're already in that direction that opposes the fade, and then try to look for what's the next move in case it's a continuation, a sideways chop, or a reversal. All right, and for those of you who do remember last Thursday, there was a fantastic example of how crazy this market is sometimes, and I just wanted to give a quick demonstration of what that looks like on the hourly chart. For those who remembered it, this was quite a fantastic gainer during the day. I don't think most people would have been playing this on the 30-minute, but when you see this much volume coming in on any given day, you do want to zoom out to get a macro view in case you get early exits. What happened here was just around 9:30, after the market already pre-market and opening market took ISPO up pretty high. We get a massive large volume in, which would basically be forming somewhere in this part of the candle. As long as the buy spike shows up, it'll still stay there as this candle grows. So you don't have to wait for the whole candle close to see this. Usually it's within, even before half the candle is formed, you'll see the large volume in. And once you see that, you can get in. Here you can see that the price pushed up really fast, pulled down really hard, and that's where you get that momentum out, our previous out signal. But if you're looking for that volume out and you see that the volume is still developing nice and healthy, you can actually hold on to that. Not advisable to not take profits if you already got like a decent gain from the bottom to the top. That was about like 350% or more. So if you see those kind of gains, definitely maybe take a good chunk of profits off the table, cover your initial cost of entry, and then let the runners continue to run with nice tight stops in case the market does turn around against you. But in this case, with these massive buy spikes, this large volume in led to pretty much not the peak, which was up here. There was no sign to get out there. It was pretty fast. But at this point, if you look at the peak, which is around maybe 780%, this volume out was still somewhere nestled between 675 to maybe 700% gains from that point to that point. So if you were one of the lucky ones to play ISPO and you remembered how fast and how choppy it was, these signals may have helped to calm the nerves, because a lot of times you don't know if it's going to go any higher, if it's going to flash dump, and you're just looking for a reason to stay in or a reason to get out. And so that would be my recommendation, is definitely take a look at the TacBotz signals. Depending on how much volume you get, keep increasing the time scale to get to a point where you can get a nice solid green background, and if that breaks, you know it's game over. In this case, this was the next day, so that's why there's that huge jump. But at the end of the day, I think large volume in to volume out, that's a great play. No need to chase the downside once you get such a nice move up. If you really do have to play that down move, let's say you missed the initial run up and now you're just looking to play the down, there weren't as many signals to get you into a short position, and also you can see here that it's pretty choppy. So my recommendation is, if you're going to do it, play with the counter trend based on where we got to, and it does make sense that it would pull back down. You just have to go to a smaller time frame and maybe scalp a lot faster just to avoid the chop. So hopefully that helps to show you a couple of examples on our new signals, using a pretty crazy example in ISPO, one of the best movers I've seen, even compared to GME. This thing was really fun to watch. Unfortunately, I wasn't trading it, but I knew a few people who did. And hopefully for those who did trade it, these signals and how I described it would add some value the next time we get such a crazy runner in the market like that. All right, if you have any questions, go find us in Discord. My Discord handle is TFTChris. Happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.